To find out what might be next, let's bring in our next guest. Here to provide some insight, Michael Rubin from the American Enterprise Institute. He is the author of Dancing with the Devil, The Perils of Engagement. Michael, it is so good to have you back here on America's Forum.
Hey, thanks for having me.
And Michael, as Miranda just alluded to, this latest case comes after the tale of another Denver teen, 19-year-old Shannon Connolly, who pleaded guilty last month after trying to fly to Turkey to connect with ISIS. What on earth is going on here? Is there an active female recruitment campaign here in the United States by ISIS?
Well, there's an active female recruitment campaign, not only in the United States, but more broadly across the West. We've had the case of these Bosnian emigres to Vienna who have gone and become poster girls for ISIS, who are now pregnant. It's too late for them. They want to come back. There's no way they can really get back. But you know, what this really indicates is not just the fact that these folks want to fill a void in their lives, but it's also a condemnation of how little we emphasize American citizenship in our schools and in our communities. Those values are what should be filling the void. We shouldn't be leaving this vacuum to develop.
Michael, ISIS spreads its message through social media, and until recently, recruiting was aimed at young men only. What do you think has led them to switch their message, gearing it especially towards young women?
Well, ultimately, and I hate to say this, the ISIS men objectify the women. They look at them as simply there for sex, there for reward. That's what their fate is going to be when they go into Syria. That said, and you do have specific female units inside ISIS that focus more on the rear and more on supplies. Maybe they believe that they're contributing to some twisted notion of jihad, but the fact of the matter is what they're doing is throwing their lives away.
But why do you think ISIS is so successful at luring Westerners? And what can parents do to kind of guide their kids away from joining ISIS?
Well, you know, they're not just successful at luring Westerners. They've been successful at luring hundreds, even thousands of other people. And the fact of the matter is the Westerners are only one aspect of this fight. But what can families do? Well, ultimately, we've got to focus on religious ideology. The fact of the matter is we're not getting so many random non-Muslims going to join ISIS, so we need to look at what's going on in the mosque, what's going on in the families, the religious messages which those families are imparting on their children. At the same time, in our schools, in our public schools, we need to focus on the importance of American citizenship, the importance of the American Constitution, on liberalism and liberal society. The fact of the matter is we're not doing that. We're so infused with cultural equivalence and moral equivalence that we're afraid to step up for our values, and we're paying the price right now.
Michael, we would be remiss if we didn't go to another story that concerns us all. North of our border in Canada, new concerns after a 25-year-old man ran over two soldiers with his car. He killed one of the soldiers, injured another. The police shot and killed him. Canadian authorities say the man may have been radicalized, and they say he had been on their radar. Is this a lone rat prompted by ISIS? And should we expect more of this, whether in Canada or in the United States in the future?
Be considered terrorism. In the United States, of course, it would just be chalked up as workplace violence. The fact of the matter is, from the late Anwar al-Awlaki through others, we're seeing a situation in which ISIS and Al-Qaeda more broadly are trying to recruit lone wolf terrorists, and they're doing a fair job of it. We're going to have these situations in Britain. We're going to have these situations in Canada. And unfortunately, we're going to have more of these situations in the United States, as we recently had in Oklahoma.
Michael, with this situation and with the current administration trying to disavow that these types of actions are terrorist acts, you made mention of a workplace violence situation. We all remember Fort Bliss. Is Canada in the thralls of political correctness just like the United States? Is there great freedom given to allow this ideology of Islamism to prosper north of our border?
Well, you know, Canada has been afflicted by political correctness. Nowhere is as bad as Great Britain, however. and as Europe. But what we should be doing is looking at what occurs in London, looking what occurs in Canada, and recognizing that's our future if we refuse to address this problem with moral clarity.
And with that moral clarity, we have about a minute remaining. If you were in charge, Michael, what would you do about social media? What would you do about citizenship education?
Well, you know, at American Enterprise Institute, we have a huge project on citizenship education. It's bipartisan by John Kyle and by Joe Lieberman. Certainly, I do think that we shouldn't be afraid to promote American values rather than the twisted notion that America's guilty of everything. That means more parents have to be involved in schools and in setting the curriculum and so forth. At the same time, it's time we stop self-flagellating and stop apologizing for America. We fill the vacuum with altruism. If it's not for us, the world is going to be chaotic.
There have been some, about 20 seconds. President Obama has been credited with going on a world apology tour. Is he now the chief apologist for the United States? Has he set up this environment? 15 seconds.
Absolutely, he has. There's nothing we should be apologizing for. If it weren't for the United States, the world would never have recovered from World War II, and we'd still be fighting those fascist ideologies.
Michael Rubin of the American Enterprise Institute, we thank you for your time, and America's Forum continues here on Newsmax TV right after this Newsmax Now update.